quickly. And I want to read a couple numbers and preface the conversation with a couple things. I promised you all that I work for that I'd just be straightforward, honest, and if it offends you or hurts your feelings, I apologize. It's not intended to do that. I'm just going to tell you what I think. Another reason I ran for office is because I got sick of politicians saying what I thought Mike Guerin wanted to hear just to get him to vote for me. That's wrong. We have too much of that politics. So I am on the Education Administration Committee. I have heard the Freedom Scholarship Bill in committee. I voted no on it. I'll tell you why in just a minute. I voted no on it, and I say this, and this will make everybody in the room mad with this statement, maybe, and I hope you'll still hug me or shake hands with me as we leave. But I support the fact that some of the tax dollars follow the kid if the parents decide. We call that school choice. I don't even know what school choice is now. We've so messed with that terminology, but I support that concept. What I don't support is increasing the size of the State Department of Education national by 11 people. It's already too big. And we already have too many reaches from the State Department of Education tell Mike Guerin what to do. We just voted on one of those last week that he and I got a chance to talk about, that we wanted to make it a law, and this apparently come to the really, really fine lady that carried the bill from her school system. They want to make it state law that you can't have a cell phone out on your desk or something when you're being instructed in school. Well, I think cell phones pretty much a bank to existence in many regards. But I don't think I need Nashville telling Mike Guerin or Jenny Barker how to do that. I think Jenny Barker and Mike Guerin can figure that out for themselves in their own school system. And so we have lots of those overreach, and that's I think some of what we may be doing with the Freedom Scholarship. And I'm not trying to bias you all, I'm just telling you, so I don't want you to think at the end of this meeting that I just said what you wanted to hear. That's why I'm saying these things first. Okay. And I'm going to throw some numbers at you, and then I'll talk a little bit more about why I was a no. And these numbers I got from Cameron yesterday, and I will say this, we have some really, really, really good people in the State House and the city. But I know the ones in the State House better that are working to try to make this Freedom Scholarship or vouchers bill something that's good for all Tennesseans. I promise you they have the right heart in it. And some of that's yielded some money, and I want you to hear these numbers because I've got 4 districts that I represent: Oak Ridge, Mineral City, Loudoun County, and Rome County. And either from the school board or from the county commission or both, I've got letters that do not support this. I'll be honest with you, I think we probably got those letters a little bit prematurely because some of them started coming in November. And the words of these things aren't worked out. Lowell and I have a House bill now that we've both read, and there's a Senate bill, and they'll likely meet up at some point in time. But I want you to hear these numbers, and then again, I'll tell you why I'm a no, why I continue to be a no. For Rome County, if there's any Rome County folks here, the increase, if this bill were to pass under the House version, that's important to remember, under the House version, the increase in state dollars next year would be 1.9 million new state dollars going into Rome County school systems. Loudoun County, and these are estimates, it says, and this is all state dollars, 1.42 million new state dollars. Lenore City, 561,000 new state dollars. And Oak Ridge, 1.18 million new state dollars. This Oak Ridge, like Lenore City, is a city. And so the reason I went off to you that I went no on this, and again, it was after much thought because I had promised everybody I was in support of this, of parents getting some of the money. So I asked these questions when the bill started to mature last October. I met with some of the governor's staff about this. I'm trying not to talk the whole time so we have some questions. But the first question I asked was this. Are there going to be economic levels? Are we going to favor one income level over another in distribution of these, what at that time were vouchers? And the answer was yes. And I said, well, I can't support that. That's socialism. We do so much of that in our economy today. I would just offer to you that you only have to look at the District of Columbia, Nashville, Memphis, and see that where we try to make, in rural Rome County, say the same thing, where we try to make that difference, it doesn't work. Sometimes it leads to a sense of entitlement. I know that's not politically correct, but it leads to that, and that's not good for our republic. So the next question that I asked, at that time the TISA dollar, most of y'all I'm sure understand TISA as well or better than I do. At that time the TISA dollar was $6,200, and I said, so if I send, there's a little Christian school in Kingston I'm very familiar with, Calvary Christian School. And I said, so I'll give you an example. If I decide to send my kid, I pull them out of Roane County schools and send them to Calvary Christian School, and it costs $3,500 a year, how much money is going to go with the child? And they said, well, $6,200. I said, why? It's only going to cost $35. They said, well, they might need a computer or something. I said, I can't really support that. That's not fiscally responsible. And then we talked about increasing the size of government. We talked about inflationary impacts. So we just lived through 3 years of Joe Biden. And if you didn't know what inflation was, if you hadn't grown up in the 70s and the 60s, 70s, 80s like I have, you know what it is, man. And so that happens in macro economies or macro markets, and it also occurs in micro markets. If we were to greatly incentivize new Ford F-250s somehow and the purchase of those vehicles, it would have an impact on what those trucks cost, right? Roma, Ford truck. It does the same thing in our housing industry, and it'll do the same thing with private schools. There's going to be an increase on that. But under the current House bill, the goal is 20,000 kids across the state, based on some of those criteria I've given you, that would get an opportunity for these Freedom Scholarships. And that number is likely going to grow. And that number, if the TISA number today is $7,000, that's $140 million. The total approximated price tag on this thing right now on the House version is somewhere between like $380 and $420 million in the first year. So we in this area, our U.S. Congressman was just blasting something irresponsible that happened in D.C. yesterday, where we voted for a $1.3 or $1.2 trillion increase, and Tim took what I appreciate as a taxpayer, the right approach. We have to be careful of that national too. We have to be careful not to set ourselves up so we're going to let a genie out of the bottle that we cannot control. And I'll go back to two other questions, and I'm going to stop and hear from you all, because I think I would have fully satisfied my conscience that you know exactly why I voted the way I did. And I'm not just telling you what you want to do. You heard this statement made. He said, I want to try to quote it correctly so you can see me thinking, that this Freedom Scholarship will finally make parents in Tennessee free to choose a high-quality education for their child. That offends me first, because I can't make you any freer. God made you free. And so some 25-year-old who doesn't understand marketing probably wrote that for the people that have said it, right? And it sounds like I'm picking on 25-year-olds. I'm not. I'm just, bear with me. Lowell and I, as I've already said, we're duty and oath bound to not infringe upon your rights, but I can't make Mike Guerin any freer than what he is. Your governor can't make you any freer than what you are right now. Your president can't make you any freer than what you are. As Americans, we believe we've been endowed by our Creator with those rights, right? So that's foundational. It's important. And then the second part of that is probably the most offensive thing you could possibly say to the schools across the state of Tennessee. That they finally get a high-quality education. I am not a teacher. I know I have teachers in the room. My older son's a teacher. He's an athletic director. I can't call him a teacher. He's an AD. But person number one responsible is the kid to show up ready to learn. And they have to be equipped by the parent with the expectation to show up ready to learn. And so I think that we have kids in Lenore City and Loudoun County and Roane County and Oak Ridge that can go become physicists and engineers and school teachers and doctors and lawyers, that we provide a great opportunity for that. Nothing in our state is perfect, but to say that they finally get a high quality education is an unnecessarily offensive thing. We shouldn't say things. We should market for that. So, those are some of the reasons I voted no on it, so I'm ready to hear from y'all about any questions you